It was the accusation seen around the world. A challenger hunting the champion, not in the cage, but in the hallways. The war for the light heavyweight throne was supposed to be settled inside the Octagon when Magomed Ankalaev decisively defeated Alex Pereira. But for the former champion, the fight never ended. It all exploded with this video. Alex Pereira claiming the champion was running, hiding in a room, afraid to face him. For days, the narrative was set. The world only heard one side of the story. While the internet debated, the champion himself remained silent. Until now. Magomed Ankalaev is breaking his silence, and what he reveals is a story that goes beyond a simple rivalry. It's a story of calculated lies, a total loss of respect, a bombshell accusation of cheating in their first fight, and a chilling promise for what will happen when the cage door locks behind them for the final time. The story began not with a punch, but with a notification. While the champion was recovering, Alex Pereira launched his offensive online, posting a video claiming Ankalaev's cowardice. For the world, it was a viral moment. For Magomed Ankalaev, it was how he woke up to a firestorm of accusations he calls pure fiction. He says, "It's an interesting story. I was at a procedure and when I came out they told me Pereira was there. I didn't think anything of it. Then the next morning I wake up, no proof, no clear story, just excuses." And for Magomed Ankalaev, that was more insulting than any punch. It was a lie that didn't just question his courage, it destroyed his respect for the man he once called a warrior. This wasn't just a fighter trying to get under his opponent's skin. Pereira's words, calling Ankalaev a bad champion, were a direct assault on his reign. And it was strangely out of character. In his legendary rivalry with Israel Adesanya, a war that spanned two sports, there were intense moments, but the trash talk rarely, if ever, became this personal, this disrespectful. So the question is, why now? Why against Ankalaev? The champion has his own theory. He believes this isn't confidence from Pereira, it's desperation, a calculated attempt to create drama after, as Ankalaev claims, Pereira ducked him when he first held the belt. He says, "It started when he was avoiding a fight with me when he was champion, so I started to poke at him a little, and now he's talking all sorts of nonsense." The interviewer points out the obvious. This level of animosity is new for both men who are usually respectful of their opponents. So what is it about this specific matchup that has created such a toxic chemistry? For Magomed Ankalaev, the answer is brutally simple. It's no longer about tactics or strategy. It's about a fundamental line that was crossed. Respect is the currency of a warrior. And in Ankalaev's eyes, Alex Pereira is now bankrupt. This is the moment the rivalry morphed into something much darker, a personal grudge. But the champion didn't just get angry, he got even, by confronting Pereira and his entire team alone. The UFC Performance Institute, a neutral ground, a place of science, training, and recovery, not a place for street confrontations. But after being tried and convicted in the court of social media, the champion decided to turn this sanctuary into an arena. He didn't wait for a press conference. He didn't send a message through his manager. He decided to settle it right then and there. The picture Ankalaev paints is a scene straight out of a movie. He says he was there with just his coach. Across the room sat Pereira and his entire team, a whole crowd. He was one man. They were many. This was the moment of truth. Would he ignore them? Would he wait for a better time? No, he walked straight into the fire. He didn't yell, he didn't push. He confronted them with two simple, devastating questions that completely flipped the script. He says he walked up to them and asked, "I'm right here. Who was looking for me? What's the problem?" In that moment, he wasn't the one hiding, he was the one demanding answers. He was calling their bluff in front of everyone. And the response he received? According to Ankalaev, it wasn't a warrior's challenge. It wasn't an escalation. It was a confusing mess of excuses, stories about some girl saying something, incomprehensible chatter. The tough talk from the internet video evaporated in the face of a real, direct confrontation. But Ankalaev left them with one final chilling thought, a promise that goes beyond this one incident.
He told them if there is any disrespect, he will do what is necessary to stop it. This wasn't a threat. It was a cold, clear statement of fact, a code he lives by. But this confrontation in the hallway was just the beginning of Ankalaev's revelations, because he claims the ultimate disrespect didn't happen in the PI. It happened in the cage during the biggest fight of their lives. To understand the gravity of what Ankalaev revealed next, we have to go back to the first fight, back to the one question that puzzled fans and analysts alike. Why couldn't the wrestler wrestle? We're talking about a master of sport in Sambo, a fighter whose entire style is built on a foundation of grappling control. Yet for 25 minutes against an elite kickboxer with a known vulnerability on the ground, he failed to secure a single takedown. It didn't make sense. For months, the accepted narrative was a mix of Pereira's improved defense and, as Ankalaev himself admits, a problematic training camp. He acknowledges he had issues, that he didn't focus on his wrestling as much as he should have. It was a logical explanation, a convenient one. But it turns out that was only half the story. The champion reveals there was another, far more sinister reason his grappling was useless that night. He is dropping a bombshell, an accusation so serious it threatens to rewrite the history of their first encounter and cast a dark shadow over Pereira's performance. Ankalaev claims that when he finally closed the distance, when he tried to grab hold of his opponent, something was fundamentally wrong. He says Pereira wasn't just slippery from sweat, he was greased. He was deliberately coated in something that made it impossible to secure a grip. And this isn't a new excuse cooked up after months of reflection. He says he knew it from the very first attempt. He told his corner right there in the heat of the battle that something was wrong, that Pereira was impossibly slippery. This transforms his claim from a potential case of sour grapes into a real-time accusation made during the fight. In combat sports, it's one of the oldest and dirtiest tricks in the book, a claim that this wasn't a fair fight between two warriors, but a setup where one man's greatest weapon was deliberately neutralized before the first bell even rang. Now, the lies, the disrespect in the hallway, the accusations of hiding, it all clicks into place, and it sets the stage for a rematch where the champion isn't just fighting to defend his title, he's fighting for vengeance. And so now the picture of the rematch is complete, and it is terrifying. The hiding accusation wasn't just trash talk, it was a failed psychological attack. The confrontation in the hallway wasn't just a squabble, it was a moment where the champion stared down his rival and saw weakness. And the greasing scandal isn't just an excuse, it's the missing piece of the puzzle that explains the past and dictates the future. With all the cards on the table, Ankalaev makes a prediction that sounds less like a hope and more like a statement of fact. He says the second fight will be much, much easier. And there's a chilling logic to his confidence. The first time he stepped into the cage with a compromised training camp, and if he's to be believed, against a compromised opponent who had neutralized his greatest weapon, and he still outstruck the most feared striker on the planet. He beat the kickboxer at kickboxing. Now, imagine what happens when he's fully prepared. Imagine what happens when his primary weapon, his sambo, is back online. And as for the war of words, the champion dismisses it all as meaningless TikTok talk. Because when the moment of truth arrived, when they stood face to face, he says he saw it all in Pereira's eyes. Not the cold-blooded killer on the posters, but a nervous man who had been caught in a lie. He believes the mystique is gone. The fear factor has evaporated. And then comes the final, brutal piece of Ankalaev's analysis. He sees a fighter who is old, on the decline, and whose motivation has shifted. In his eyes, Alex Pereira is no longer fighting for legacy or for greatness. He's fighting for a paycheck, and a man fighting for money can never beat a man fighting for vengeance. This isn't just a prediction of a win. It's a promise of a violent, definitive finish, a changing of the guard executed by his own hands. The score isn't just 1-0. In the champion's mind, it's a tally of disrespect, lies, and deceit. The rematch is no longer about proving who is the better fighter. It's about delivering punishment. And Ankalaev has already promised us how it will end. And so the stage is set. This is no longer a title defense. It's a trial by combat. a web of accusations, a confrontation in the hallway, and a secret from the first fight that changes everything. On one side, a former champion seeking redemption, trying to prove his loss was a fluke. On the other, a reigning champion who believes he was cheated, disrespected, and lied to. This is not about points. It's not about a decision. It's about a debt that Magomed Ankalaev believes can only be paid in blood. He finished his interview with one final chilling reminder, a memory from that second round where victory was just seconds away. He claims only the bell, only pure luck saved Pereira from the inevitable. And this time he says, there will be no bell to save him. There will be no escape. So, the question is simple. Who do you believe? Was Pereira playing dirty, or is Ankalaev making excuses? Who leaves the Octagon with the belt when this personal war is finally over? Drop your predictions in the comments below. If you're hyped for this fight,